Hi everyone, I welcome you all to the very first episode of the Collaborative Minds. I'm truly grateful for you all to be joining us on this journey. Now, before we welcome our amazing guest for today, let me give you a little bit of a backstory and explain the concept of the Collaborative Minds. I saw this episode or this TED talk a few months ago, and it's by Dr. Shell Van Etten. What she mentioned was a little exercise which I'd like to invite you all to do with me. So I invite you to imagine that you're holding a little stone or a little button in your hand, or maybe a little idea written on a scrap of paper. Imagine that you're holding in your fist. Now, when you hold something in your fist, you have an absolute control of a very small thing. Now, I invite you to imagine something bigger, for which you have to open your arms wide open to hold it. And it's so big that you cannot do it all by yourself. So you invite others and you invite them with their arms wide open. And together, all of you, together, move something which is truly big. That's what collaboration is all about. And that's precisely the idea that brought the Circle of Legends and MindArt together. To give you a little bit of a backstory of how we came up with this concept. So I was introduced to Mr. Darshan Patel, who is the founder of the Circle of Legends, by a common contact, Mr. Sunny Nagpal, and I'm so grateful to him for that. Circle of Legends is an amazing platform which brings together professionals and youth together on the principles of collaborative learning, where the seniors get to share their experience and the young get to share their zest, their enthusiasm, their trends, and the changing trends of human behavior. So we all get to learn from each other, and that's precisely through learning and sharing. So it's an amazing platform to be a part of. Now, just a month ago, in a candid conversation, I brought about this idea, which I've been sitting over for months. And I presented it to Mr. Darshan Patel, to which we agreed on collaborating because we had the same purpose. And we believed in collaboration. And we believed that together, with mutual trust, we can make it happen. And here we are today on the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. I mean, what would be a better day to talk about collaboration? A person who brought an entire nation, the whole world together. And I'd also like to wish a very happy birthday to Raj Nandini, who's a part of our Collaborative Mind team. It's her birthday today too, so wish her a very happy birthday. So I invite you all to our wonderful initiative, and thank you so much for being a part of it. So let's welcome our first guest. I'm honored to welcome Malcolm Hunt. Malcolm Hunt is a founding director of Shikodo Limited, a not-for-profit organization whose mission is to empower those who have been challenged socio-economically and displaced through war and violence. Malcolm is the founder of the cloud thinking method of coaching. His professional background has been in psychotherapy and mental health. He was a Buddhist monk in China for 5 years, where he also worked with young orphan women and returned to Australia in 2014. Malcolm, I welcome you to the very first episode of the Collaborative Minds.
Thank you very, very much, Vandana. Thank you for inviting me. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here amongst what I'm understanding to be some very innovative and inspiring people. Thank you, Vandana, for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. So tell us more about the amazing projects that you've been working on.
Where do I start? Where do I start? Yeah, Shikodo, particular Shikodo is a non-profit organization, and I think we're very left field in our work. We have been recently doing
Malcolm, we
some.
cannot hear you. I think there's something with the connection.
Okay. I'm not sure what is happening there. Is my microphone not on? Now mute. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Yes, you can hear now. That's good. You can hear me, I hope. So how are we? Can you hear me? Is that
I,
okay? Oh, that's good. I'm used to technical issues. We had some great technical issues last night in the Shikodos. I'm at the moment training some very wonderful people in Uganda and South Sudan, and
wow,
training them in the cloud coaching method. So we had a lot of technical issues last night. So that's okay. This is what happens.
understand. Thank you
Um,
for understanding.
so Shikodo, yeah, we have been working with volunteers in Uganda at present. This Shikodo is very new at the moment. So working with volunteers in Uganda, volunteer mentors and coaches who are working predominantly in Uganda with refugees in the United Nations refugee camp, refugees who have come from South Sudan across the border into Uganda. Um, and there are those also working within South Sudan with predominantly amongst younger people, teenage and young persons in youth leadership and youth development.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Malcolm. Wow,
Welcome.
that's a wonderful
Yeah.
project. I was reading a little bit more about your project, and I understand that there are about 67 communities that you're trying to bring together in the communities of South Sudan. Now, an
Yes, that's correct.
wonderful. So now an initiative as such, I mean, how do you bring? What's the strategy that you implement to bring all of them together?
Yeah, it's very much around collaboration and yeah, the connections come right back here to Australia. In fact, we are doing this project conjointly with an organisation called Youth for Global Peace. So in that project, in Youth for Global Peace, we have a connection with Sudanese community, and one of the elders of that Sudanese community, James Lukere, introduced us to the community in Uganda, and it was from there that. We worked with local ambassadors and politicians to enable others to come on board and learn a coaching and mentoring method, which enables the focus of that method is to enable people to emerge through their difficulties, through their problems, to new people.
Mm,
Many of us, I think, can see our problems as problems to be avoided or to be run away from, hidden, and certainly some of the problems that many of, particularly the women and children, are experiencing in Uganda are ginormous, and
mm,
it's very easy to be crushed by such difficulties. So the coaching method emphasizes or puts its focus on that process of emergence, finding meaning through intense suffering, and developing a new mindset. And you mentioned earlier on about mindset. So that we emerge to new and better people as a result of these struggles and difficulties.
wow, how beautiful is that? And thank you for sharing. It's a classic
Uh,
example of collaboration.
mm,
Bringing
indeed,
local organization in
yeah.
Australia, the Youth for Global Peace, collaborating with Shikodo for a project in Uganda. I mean, that's
Yes,
the impact that when people come together can really make happen. So
yes,
thank you for
collaboration and cooperation.
and cooperation. And I love what you said about giving them a meaning and that hope to look forward to emerge and
Yes,
transform. That's
yes,
priceless.
yes. Because I think it's the meaning. When we find meaning in our struggle, we come, I believe, in touch with that core within each of us. And I shared with you last week some of the stories as when I was a monk. and
Mm,
finding meaning in some of the struggles and difficulties that we had in that small environment brings us in contact with what we are meant to be doing, our true light, if you like. And
mm,
every spiritual faith will have its own understanding of that. But we
mm,
know deep inside of ourselves what we are here to do in the midst of the storm and the maelstrom. Um, we can find meaning, purpose, and life.
mm. That's so beautiful. And I see there's so many comments we are receiving from people who are viewing us right now, and they say that, finding a meaning, it matters so much. And for everyone struggles with a deep meaning. Life is great when we have wonderful leaders like you. So thank you for all the
Well,
awesome.
I don't think I just do what I feel I need to do. Yeah. Thank you.
So Malcolm, tell us more about, you mentioned that you were a monk in China
Mm,
and, working with people from such diverse backgrounds.
mm.
What was the most challenging part of that journey?
Numerous challenging parts. I didn't choose. I often say this. I did not choose to become a monk. It chose me. I went to a small temple in Zhejiang province. It was a very old a temple that was falling down, and I went there really to on a holiday to find myself, as I'd been through some life struggles, personal struggles, and what started out to be a 3-month stay ended up to be a 5-year journey. And it was in that period that the master, the abbot of the temple, suggested I might like to think about taking ordination. And yeah, one of the challenges, of course, was the temple was falling apart. It had been, there was no financial support for that temple. You might realize that in China at that period of time and continues today, post-cultural revolution, um, there are many devotees had left the Buddhist circles, so they were not, contributing to the temple. So I had this idea, and my idea was to bring people on retreats to the temple. A very childish idea when I look back at it, uh, and that they could come to the temple and learn mindfulness. And I thought, yeah, let's go for that. So the first problem was when I asked the master, the abbot of the temple, what type of financial situation do we have to make this project come alive? And he looked at me and said, in Chinese, he said, well, we don't have any money. Okay,
Mm,
so do we have a telephone? Do we have telephone connection? Because I couldn't get any connection with a mobile phone. He said, no. All right. So there was no mobile phone, no connection, internet connection. So with limited Chinese, I had to go and try to negotiate all of this. I might say that the internet connection took quite some time to come into fruition. But
mm,
I think what happened was it was a collaboration of many good people
mm,
who saw that we wanted to do some good things. And as a result of many people coming for retreats over that period of time, they donated. The
mm,
retreats were not they weren't charged out; they were free, and people could donate, and the donations were very generous. So many people came over that period of time to experience the peace, experience inner peace within themselves, and I made a brave. I look back on it again, childish, perhaps, sort of brave attempt to bring people together from different parts of the world. And on that occasion, over a long weekend, we had 8 nations represented for a conference about peace and development of peace amongst peoples within the world. And that all went underneath the radar of the uh, the authorities at the time.
mm. That's wonderful, Malcolm. And I love that you use the word childish But I mean, I feel that, being able to be in touch with that inner child is key. We need to be able to bring up the playfulness. We need to be able to think like a child does, because they don't have any boundaries. So it's
Yeah,
only
that's
when
right.
one thinks from that angle is when you make it happen. And look at you for bringing in all 8 nations together and making it happen when there was no money and when there was no even technology to be able to access them at that point in time.
27 nations to be precise by the time we counted all the nationalities that came through the temple gates, some 800.
Wow.
So it was a necessary collaboration between local people. It was certainly never a project that I could have achieved myself.
Hmm.
Um, and so I give thanks, certainly to the Buddha and for all the good people that came by to offer assistance in so many different ways. People who were the drivers picking up the retreatants coming from the nearest major town. There were those that took part in cooking and cleaning. There were those that helped out in the administration. So many great people. So collaboration is absolutely essential. There's so many great projects that certainly cannot be done by one person alone, as you were saying at the beginning. And this was certainly a demonstration that we needed many, many more people.
Mm.
And I think with that, there's not only collaboration, but cooperation. And as I was sharing with you the other week, the cooperation with government authorities.
Most definitely. As you mentioned, the idea of aligning ourselves to a common purpose and to be able to bring in our unique strengths and cooperate towards the common cause is the key to making any collaboration successful.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
But
indeed. Yeah. Yeah, there were times that the government authorities were very nervous, and
huh?
it wasn't without a great challenge that the government authorities, the security bureau, would visit the temple on numerous occasions to ask me, what was occurring here. Um, And I was very conscious that it was very important to maintain the law in China. Um, However, yeah, it did get a bit tense at times.
All right. Can you if you're comfortable, can you elaborate on that? How did that go?
Yes, it wasn't without its tense moments because there wasn't a great deal of clarity around why the interrogations took place. I understand that because I'm a foreigner in China as a monk, it's very unusual, and I could understand that the local authorities were very curious as to what this foreigner was doing, and so. And so they called them get to know you sessions, but generally they're interrogations. Um, and I have to say about the Chinese Security Bureau in each of those occasions were quite decent in the way that, on the whole, there were some exceptions, how it was done. But I do recall, if I could share, I don't know if I have time to share this particular story of an interrogation, because it comes into this issue of collaboration and cooperation. It was one afternoon. I was coming from my room over to the main temple to obtain some incense, and I noticed two people walking up the pathway into the temple.
Hmm.
Firstly, it's not very common during the weekdays, and secondly, I noticed that they were dressed very, very well, which is very unusual. We were in a rural mountain area, and normally the only people that came in during the week were local farmers. So that first caught my attention. The second thing that caught my attention was that the lady was carrying one candle, and the man was carrying about two or three sticks of incense. And that was unusual because normally devotees carry a whole package of candles and a whole package of incense to light for the Buddha. So I was curious. Something sort of clicked. What's happening here? So I walked across to the temple. I came back out, and as I walked past them, I noticed. I turned back and looked over my shoulder, and as I looked over my shoulder, the man was on a walkie-talkie.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, I think I'm done. And within about 4 minutes, 3 cars had entered the temple grounds with uniform officers and plainclothes officers asking me to raise my arms, and they frisked me and looked at my passport. And I was brought in for interrogation. And it was during that interrogation, questions about my family in Australia and what have you, whether any of my family had visited China, what I thought about the Dalai Lama, what I had thought about had I met Jesus Christ. I'd never met him, but I said I'm sure he's a great guy. Yes. And many other quite complex questions. And while this was happening, one was photographing me from every angle. I didn't ask for copies of the photographs.
We
but
use them for
but during that interrogation, they asked me whether I had kept details. They asked me how many people had come through the temple gates. I said at that point about 600. And they were quite surprised. I had no idea. And they asked if I had documents to show the name. So I said I do, and I can cooperate and give you those documents from my computer, but I will have to print them off on Excel spreadsheet. And I'm not very good at doing that. They said, well, you can take the interpreter with you. She can help you.
Okay.
I was quite surprised I was able to leave this interrogation and go back to my room by myself with the interpreter, whom I thought was a police officer. And she said, I asked her, are you a policewoman? And she said, no, I'm not a policewoman. I'm an interpreter from the university. I said, I'm curious because I think I have been under surveillance for about 2 months. She said, no, about 1 year. And then she went, oh, well, I shouldn't have said that. I said, that's okay, that's with me. I said, what I want to do is change the rhythm of the interrogation. Because you see, I believe in cooperation and that collaboration, and I could understand that we're working together, the two of us, the Security Bureau and the Internal Ministry of Security. They have a job to do, and I have mine. And somehow I needed to, I felt, find that intersection. And what I wanted to do was go back and ask them some questions. And I asked the interpreter, would it be possible to ask the officers questions? And she said, yes. What do you want to ask them? If they're married, if they have children. She said, what? I said, well, yeah, I want to bring this conversation to a human level. And I think it's in those moments of great stress, it's important, it was for me at least, to find within me what my core element is, and what I'm about. And for me, it is about the development of peace between people. That is what I'm here to do, to bring peace and cooperation between each other. And I knew that in that very tense time where any moment I could be taken away and put in detention, that I had to live by those values. Internally in my mind, I'm saying to myself, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing it? But there's that inner voice saying, you know why you are here. You must continue. So we went back into the interview. I never forget that day. And the interpreter, I gave the documents that they requested, and you have to. A lawyer had told me you just need to cooperate completely. So I asked the first question: "你结婚了吗?" In Chinese, are you married? And the interrogating officer took a step back, a movement backwards. He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you happily married?" And he
Oh,
said, he answered, "Yes." And then at that point, one of the other officers laughed and said, "No, he's not. He always complains about the wife." And we all had a laugh spontaneously. I asked
absolutely.
another officer, "Do you have children?" He said, "Yes." What school do they go to? What ages are they? And before long, the whole tone of the conversation began to diminish to a more human level.
Mm.
And the questions changed, the comments changed. In fact, one of the officers who was from the Chinese Ministry for Internal Security, the equivalent of the CIA, I believe, um, told me that we could work together to continue the work that I was doing. And there were protocols and procedures that needed to take place.
Wow.
So I think it's really important that in those moments, whatever moments your viewers go through, to be reminded of that inner core, that element, and continue to walk the talk. And of course, one of the great people that have inspired me, his birthday today, Mahatma Gandhi, inspired me greatly when I was a student and reading the work of Mahatma Gandhi. Um, and he too knew exactly what his element, if you like, was, and continued to walk that path in spite of many, many moments of hardship and and pressures against him.
That's such a powerful message, Malcolm. And I can see our viewers, they're pouring in comments for, the goodness in it, the peace, the message of peace and collaboration and the human connection. I mean, what I appreciate about your story is that you were so present to what was happening, and you were able to tap into your inner resourcefulness, your values, which meant
Mm,
bringing people together through peace. And
mm,
because you believed in yourself to be able to do that, you
mm.
didn't care about what outcome is going to be and how fearful it is, but you happened to do it in the end. And the way it turned out, everybody did join in, and that's the beauty of collaboration. People do join in when you come from
Yeah,
a place. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. I do admit that there was a moment during those interrogations, and another one later on where I was locked in a room in the complex for some period of time. But I did say to myself, well, what's the worst that can happen here? And I actually remembered Mahatma Gandhi in that moment, strangely enough, because I thought, well, the worst that can happen is I'll be which was not the worst. I'd be in a nice, quiet location, locked away where I could meditate and practice a meditation that I was having a real difficulties practicing. And I thought, well, this will be a wonderful practice. I'll have plenty of time to do it. So that's the worst that could happen. Um, and try to look on the bright side and having a bit of internal sense of humor about it as well. Here I am locked in a room. What can I do in this room that passes the time? Wasn't a very decorative room, but there was always something. If you're a meditator, you can do useful.
Absolutely. Staying in touch with the humorous side always helps. I mean, having fun just ensures there's more learning for sure. So,
Hmm.
thank you so much for sharing that story, Malcolm. And now I'm going to open the floor to the audience because I see there's so many comments and beautiful comments coming along. I
Oh
see a
wow.
question by Guy Roos. Hi. So, and thank you so much for posing the question. Do you have an example of how you focus them on their struggles to find meaning and change. So I think the context is, yeah, about people who are trying to emerge out of a difficult situation. How do you get them to focus and find meanings out of their struggles?
Hmm. Well, yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you, Guy, for asking that. What I really believe that when we have a struggle or a problem or I was going to say what we say in Australia, shit happens. Um,
It does.
to look, if I can say that, I've just said it, haven't I?
Hey, wait.
To
Okay, go ahead.
to look beyond that, to look at the positive aspiration. What are we positively aspiring from the struggle? What are we hoping that will occur? That's one, because from a psychological perspective, it's very well evidenced that we move to what we focus on, and if we focus on the struggle, if we focus on the the specific problem, that's what we continue to move towards. If we reframe and change the focus to what am I hoping for from here, and what do I need to do next? That's one thing that we can do and help people to put them in help people come in contact with that. Secondly, is to know your strengths, and your strengths come from your own particular story and your own life story, your own wisdom. So I tend to ask people about their own story. What is your story? How did you get to this point?
Mm,
Tell me some of the highlights. Tell me some of the lows, and I mean, for so many people, and working with young orphans, for example, in China, I ask them how is it that they came to this point that they're at today, as we're seated down having a cup of green tea together. How did you do it?
mm,
And to hear that story of strength is amazing, and to see them come alive and make meaning, that they
mm,
knew that they were here for something because they did have those particular skills. So
mm.
it's finding what we call in cloud thinking the core element inside of us, and that's found so often in our individual stories and our individual wisdom.
That's a
Thank you.
wonderful answer, Malcolm. Thank you. I mean,
You're welcome.
the usage of the word coming alive, being able to tap into what really matters to you, what do you value, and
Yes.
yes, and believing in it and having the right focus. And what I liked about your approach was that you validated them by asking them their story. You validated them that how, what all situations have they overcome already and how far they can go from here. So thank you. Thank you for that answer. Now we have another question from Varun. He says, what is the key to get people of such varied backgrounds motivated and work together with no monetary incentive?
What is the key to get people to such varied background? That's a good question. I really believe it's in seeing something greater beyond what you are doing, in the material sense, and being able to convey to people that that and I can only use a French word, but je ne sais quoi, that I know not what, that substance beyond. Of course, as I've said, I believe I have a strong understanding of the Buddha's teaching of doing good and continuing to do good. And I think if we can translate that into terms that people understand and are inspired towards, and inspiring people to their own inner goodness, everyone has goodness. I really believe that, right? Down to the very core. And I spent a lot of time in my early years in psychology counseling young offenders that had been brought from the courts to have counseling for car theft and altercations and stabbings and what have you. And each one I asked in our depth of our conversations, I found a deep goodness with each and every one of them, something inside of them that was seeking true happiness and light. And I think when you can enable that to come out of a person, then we will walk the journey together.
Beautiful. I love it. Everybody has goodness in them. I mean, what a beautiful message is that. Yes, we need to believe in that good, and we need to believe that we can make more and more people have faith in the goodness within them.
Mm.
So, for that wonderful message, Malcolm.
Mm.
And I think we have time for one last question, which is from Chaitanya. And it, he says, do we really need technology for the betterment of humanity?
Mm. Um, I think the answer is a yes and a no. I would be very tempted to say no, not at all. And yeah, certainly from my experience in China at Guangjie Temple, that in the early days we didn't have much technology at all, and then later on the technology we did have was so unreliable, and yet we still were able to do good. However, I think with technology, certainly there's the benefit of it in being able um, to help that good go out far and wide. Yes. So I think when technology is very carefully used with mindfulness, then I think that it's good technology. I never thought I'd find myself saying that because I'm so technologically disabled.
Oh, no, you're not. We all know you're
Yeah.
here now, and we are doing this with the help of technology. So I really appreciate your answer, the way you said that it's important to mindfully use it. And this
Yes.
definitely. So thank you to all our
Yeah.
viewers for these wonderful questions and being able to be a part of this session. Thanks to Malcolm and thanks to the technology for making it happen. And so
That's
I
right.
is there a if there's one tip, Malcolm, is there one final tip that you want to share with all of our viewers? What is the key mindset strategy that they can implement, or a tip that you have for them to make their life more fulfilling?
Yeah. It's not about finding happiness in yourself or in others. It's about finding what brings you alive. If you can find what brings you alive, what truly brings you alive, you can give life to others. Um, Two great leaders, spiritual leaders, said this. One was Jesus Christ. When the people asked him, "What are you here for?" his answer was, "That you may have life and have it abundantly." The Buddha was asked a similar question his time by the religious leaders. Who are you? What are you here for? And his answer, I am Buddhaya, awakened, which really means the opposite of being asleep or dead, life.
Beautiful.
Find life in yourself, give it to others. Om Tofo.
Wonderful. Thank you for that beautiful message. And I take
Welcome.
this opportunity to thank you, Malcolm, once again for giving his time and attention and sharing such inspiring stories and messages with us all. And here we
Thank you.
have
Yeah,
Sudarshan Patel.
namaste.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, Vandana, I think thanks a lot and congratulations to you for this new initiative. And I
Thank you,
wish
Congratulations.
from
Darshan.
bottom of my heart that
Thank you,
your
Darshan.
show gets a success and you can reach to thousands and thousands people so that
All
they
right.
can benefit,
Yeah.
utilize the technology or utilize your skills more than the technology. And, we can get blessings from Buddha as well as the elders like Malcolm. So our show gets success. We reach to the people, collaborate, cooperate,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
move ahead, and take many people along with us.
That's
Definitely.
correct. That's right, Darshan. Yeah, blessings. Yeah.
Thank you so much for making it happen. I mean, it is only and only possible because of the collaboration. I mean, what started as an idea happened because you made it happen. So thank you for the collaboration, and again, thank you to all our viewers. Please feel free to get in touch. I mean, if there are any inspiring stories that you would want to share, if there's any initiative that you want to promote, if there are any ideas that you want to collaborate on, please reach out to us. Or if you want to have more tips on mindset and collaboration mindset and learning by sharing, please do reach us out. And we look forward to seeing you in our next episode. On our next episode, we have Vinesh Balan, who was an immigrant to Australia, and he wants to share his journey of the struggle and the mindset that he needed to become who he really is now. He's a career coach and helping out so many other migrants moving into the country. So he'll be on us in the next episode. So I look forward to you all to join that episode. And thank you once again. And I wish you a blessed day ahead. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Malcolm.
You're welcome. Want me to, how do I leave?